Maar gewoon is bedrijf, dus buiten wat je hebt, en dan steeds maar ook is bedrijf. Legs. My legs are a little weak right now. But that is Allez. Allez. What did you eat last tonight?
Mon-Sun leaf.
You put it on the board, huh?
Yeah.
Allez, allez. Hare
Hare
भगवान की
जय।
जय।
बहुत प्रणाम।
And then what, kind of like going down from the front, these like, Jai Radha Madhava, Jai Radha Madhava, Jai Radha Madhava, Jai Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava, Jai Radha
This is what we were on before, but mine's good. No, yeah, we should decide. Yeah, it's no harder. Oh, okay. All right. Because I remember the person. But why do you have to argue with that one? Yes. I made it. Oh, yeah.
Right, and then we come back to this verse here, right? Okay, so you're all ready to chant in unison? Okay. Well, we read the Sanskrit to 10 verses first, right? So I read the verse and the translation and the purport. We read the 10 verses first. So we go like, yeah, if this is chapter 2, text 18, then we'd read 10 verses, so it'd be up to text 28. Okay, so you ready? Okay, ready? What do you? Text 18 on what chapter? I've got Udara Sarva Evate. Chapter 2. Oh, I'm looking at chapter 7. Yeah, you were right. 18. 18. Yeah, Antavanta Ima Deha. Okay, that. Okay. Yeah, but I was on the wrong one. Yeah, from Krishna says, from me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Yeah, well, that's what I always live by because I'm always trying to remember everything. Got to remember. Got to try to remember everything. Yeah, otherwise I just forget everything, and then I forgot what I forgot. Okay, ready? Antavanta ime deha. Oh, we all chant all together, all in unison, similarly. Yeah. Antavanta ime deha nitya yashokta sarina anisino parmi yasha tasmad yashva parataha. And then we read the translation. Body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is subject to destruction. Therefore, oh we all chant in unison, and then recite the English in unison, and then go to the next verse Sanskrit. Yeah, we do it all together, all in unison. Ya enam veti hataram, yas china manyanyate hatam. Abhoto na vijnanito nayam hati nahanyate. He who thinks that the living entity is a slayer or that he is slain does not understand. One who is in knowledge knows that the self slays not, nor is slain. Najayate mirite vakadachin nayam bhutva bhavita vanubhaya ajo nitya savashtoyam purano nahanyate hanyamane sare. For the soul there is never birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, undying, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Vedas vinashinam nityam ya enam ojam avyayam katam saparasha partha gam gatyati hantikam. O Prita, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, unborn, eternal, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Vasamsi janani yata vihaya navani granatu naroparni tata sarini vihaya janani anyani samyati navani dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, similarly the soul accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Nainam chintanti sastrani, nainam dahati pavaka, na chainyam kalayanto po, na soshati maruhata. The soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor can he be burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. Achedo ayam adayoyam halakidyo salosha evacha nitya sarvagatas nanur Achaloyam sanantanaha. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can neither be burned nor dried. It is everlasting, all-pervading, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. Avyaktoyam achintoyam avikakaroyam uchite tasmanevam viditnaivam nanushoshitu maharshati. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, immutable, and unchangeable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. Atta chainam nityajatam nityam vamanyase mritam tadhapi tvam mahabaho nainam sochitamaharshashi. If, however, you think that the soul is perpetually born and always dies, still you have no reason to lament, O mighty Arnold. Chitasya drivasho mutyur durvam janmarmitasya tasmana parharyate na tvam soshitima hashishi. For one who has taken his birth, death is certain, and for one who is dead, birth is certain. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Okay, so then we go back to text 18. Antavanta me deha nitya yosakta sasarina anasino parameshasya tasmad yujashva bharata. Only the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is subject to destruction. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The material body is perishable by nature. It may perish immediately, or it may do so after 100 years. It is a question of time only. There is no chance of maintaining it indefinitely, but the spirit soul is so minute that it cannot even be seen by an enemy, to say nothing of being killed. As mentioned in the previous verse, it is so small that no one can have any idea how to measure its dimension. So from both viewpoints, there is no cause of lamentation, because the living entity can neither be killed as he is, nor can the material body, which cannot be saved for any length of time, be permanently protected. The minute particle of the whole spirit acquires this material body according to his work, and therefore observance of religious principles should be utilized. In the Vedanta Sutras, the living entity is qualified as light because he is part and parcel of the supreme light. As sunlight maintains the entire universe, so the light of the soul maintains this material body. As soon as the spirit soul is out of this material body, the body begins to decompose. Therefore, it is the spirit soul which maintains this body. The body itself is unimportant. Arjun was advised to fight and sacrifice the material body for the cause of religion. So the previous verse, Prabhupada was talking about, know that which pervades the entire body is indestructible. No one is able to destroy the imperishable soul. So, yeah, what was it? Rishi, he was talking to a scientist, and he gave the verse from Bhagavad Gita that the spirit soul is 1/10,000th part of the upper portion of the tip of the hair. And so the scientist, he kind of knows these numbers, and he crunched the numbers together really quick. You know, he already knows them what the spiritual dimension of the atom is. And he says, yeah, you know, I'm really impressed because that's exactly what we say is the size of the atom. Like that, yeah. So it's an ancient text. They're describing this. I was listening to Srimad Bhagavatam class verses on the verses that were on the birth of, what is it? The pregnancy of DT. Yeah, so I was trying to think what they're saying about that. Is that a lot of things that Prabhupada was talking about is that a lot of talk about the Varnashram Dharma system, right? Because basically the whole idea here is that the Vedas, they're eternal, and we can say, or it's said in the scriptures, that the Vedas comes from the breathing of Mahavishnu. So this is one of the things that they said in this morning's class. He said that the Vedas were stolen by a demon. And so Brahma asked Lord Krishna to please explain the Vedas to him in a summary, in a nutshell, in a summary. And Krishna gave him the 4 chatur slokis of Srimad Bhagavatam. They were expanded. And so the Srimad Bhagavatam, it has 10 points, right? That the Supreme Lord is the first creator, Brahma is the secondary creator. Then there's the progenitors, right? There's the Manus. The Supreme Lord is our only protector. The time factor is described. The 3 modes of material nature and dissolution. So they mentioned 10. They're all there. Like in 7 principles of Bhagavad Gita, there's a spiritual soul, the supreme soul. Let's see, Dharma, religion, 3 modes of material nature, but not, and karma, but not time. Time is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Right. What's that? Well, Krishna only says, "Time I am, destroyer of the worlds," in the universal form. But yeah, time isn't described in detail like it is in Srimad Bhagavatam. So time isn't one of the 7 7 categories of principles of Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. And so let's see. So the Varnashram Dharma system, that's eternal, and certain aspects of material life that is common, even though this is not a Vedic society, the global situation of the current moment. But Prabhupada is saying you can't have a classless society. You have to have leaders. There have to be managers, right? They tried to create a classless society, but it was a failure. You can't have a classless society. You know, you have the military, the militia, and they pretty much basically controlled everyone. Food supply was poor, you know. So it's that way all over the world, different ways and different, you know, communist China, capitalist America, whatever's going on with the euro and European nations, NATO nations. So this is natural. You have to have your workers, right? Your Sudras. You have to have your Vaishyas. They're involved in economic development, agriculture, and cow protection. So we have the same thing. We have manufacturing, although the manufacturing really bad stuff. There's this big giant fire, that chloride, some sort of chloride stuff is a big train full of stuff. It's like synthetic stuff that they derive from oil. Silicone, I think it was called, what did I say was the first word? It was like some sort of silicone. They use it in like making paint and acrylic, and it burned up. Yeah, it made like hundreds of miles polluted air. You didn't hear about that? When that happened? Yeah, right. Right, yeah, right. It was actually some sort of plastic acrylic stuff. Yeah, so the manufacture of this stuff, and it's really, really bad for the world. The communists, they don't know what's to be done and what's not to be done. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that the atheists or the demons, they engage in horrible works, horrible, unbeneficial works, which is actually meant to destroy the world. So talking about the spirit soul is not slain when the body is slain, right? No matter what happens to you, you get this big giant creak and a pain over here, and you kind of, Prabhupada says you get a cold, right? If you're exposed to the cold, and then you have to go pay $5 to the doctor, right? But we're still in good spirits, though. We still feel really pretty happy. You know, it could have been worse. The devotee thinks it's worse, but yeah, on the spiritual basis of the spiritual soul, we're not actually so much affected by the pains and the pleasures of the body, which are going to come and go. We know they're going to come and go, you know, and just like nobody wants uh, pain or displeasure, everyone wants pleasure. But just as pleasure comes of its own accord, displeasure is going to come. So Prabhupada was always also talking about how the spiritual soul cannot become fragmental. Jaya Gaura Nitai Ki Jai. So he was talking about how the Supreme Soul, Krishna, he's the Supreme Soul. He divides himself into so many different avatars and so many different jivas, and but yet he still remains as he is. He says this is a material concept. If you take a piece of paper and if you were to fragment it, tear it into small little pieces, and then he says throw it in there like graffiti, right? The original piece of paper has lost its form. It's now fragmented, right? So Krishna is not like that, right? He exhibits himself in many fragmented living entities, the Jiva Atmas, his avatars, Leela avatars. He's unlimited in the spiritual sky, unlimited spiritual planets, unlimited spiritual forms. And but he doesn't become fragmented because that's a material concept. He's still, the original form is still completely intact. Oh, you know the verse? Oh, that's from Ishopanishad. Ishopanishad. Ishvasham idam sarvam yam jagat tina takena bunchita mad graha swasashid pranam. Yeah, what's the translation of that? Yeah, that's the Purnam Dachate. Yeah, that all living entities. Yeah, that's the other thing is that the living entities they procreate according to their own kind, according to their own nature and species. So and the planets themselves and universes, and the way that Brahma creates the universe, everything is specifically contained and can reproduce, produce byproducts. It gradually dwindles and vanishes after coming into existence. So that's what some Prabhupada was explaining, the eternality of the soul, is that life is not a sport, but it's a continuum. A continuum. Yeah, we continue to transmigrate as birds fly from one tree to another, right? Throughout the planets and throughout the various universes, according to our desire and karma and activities. Baba was saying, it says the air carries aromas, so the subtle body, the desires in the subtle body, carries the spiritual soul to the next body. So I said, just as the air goes over a filthy place, or just as the air goes over the rose bush, so the spiritual soul will attain a body like that, either the body of a hog or a pig or the body of a demigod or his spiritual body in the spiritual world. Rose-like fragrances, all right, spiritual activities. So yeah, Prabhupada's contact. Oh no, his sinuses. Thanks. Maharaj though. So here Prabhupada's talking about here the purport that the soul does not go through the changes in the material body. The soul is not born, but because he takes on a material body, the body takes its birth. So, what is it? The false ego is we don't remember our past lives. We can have some sort of knowledge of our future lives according to certain activities. If you act like this, Your next body will be the body of a hog or a pig or a monkey or a dog or a cat or a cow or somewhere in the lower species. If you if a thief sees that someone is punished for stealing, he should stop stealing, right? But he continues to steal anyways and may have already even been arrested and punished for stealing, but he still continues to steal. So when we understand, according to the fifth canto Srimad Bhagavatam, that there's hellish conditions awaiting sinful persons. Persons who are stealing, persons who are killing for the satisfaction of their tongue, and even if people are a vegetarian, if they're not offering their foodstuffs to Krishna, they're still verily only eating lumps of sin, like that. So the living entity and material illusion, and we know this. We see them; if they're rushing back and forth. We meet them on Sankirtan. We try to snap them out of their daydream, right? They kind of shake their head and look at us, right? You notice that, but they're identifying themselves with being the material body or product of matter. I guess another 21st century pseudoism we can give it as a biological android. The material body is made of material energy is ever a machine made of the material energy, right? Yeah, so there's biological androids being produced by two more complete wholes, which are biological androids. Right. So but they're identifying with, they think that they're their label, their name that they were given, right? And a man or a woman, whatever the background is, what schools they went to, what their profession is, what uniform they wear, so it's highly diversified, but they're not, well, we know from our past experience that Krishna and our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, was like not in the picture at all, right? It was some other picture of nationalism, patriotism, I'm a boy, I'm a girl, right? Uh, Identifying with the specific, what is it, from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body of death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such change. So we have this information. So they're wandering around in a confused state of existence, identifying themselves with material body as something which is not. And in fact, that's what they were saying in the class this morning. They're saying Maya is just simply only dead matter, right? But what is Maya is your forgetfulness of Krishna or your lack of Krishna consciousness. That's Maya, like that. Your absorption, right? He expressed this quite a few times in a few different ways. Matter is just only dead matter, right? It's your consciousness which determines whether or not you're a Maya or God consciousness. So how long does class usually go for? Oh, 8:20. Okay, good. Okay, so we still have some time. So is there any questions or comments? Or maybe just go read the next person report. The subject of discussion. Okay, so let's see. That was how many purports did I read? Of text 18? Okay, so text 19. Ya ena veti hataram yas china manyate hatam ubhato na vijananti nayam hati nahanyate. He who thinks that the living entity is the slayer or that he is slain does not understand. One who is in knowledge knows that the self slays not nor is slain. When an embodied living entity is hurt by fatal weapons, it is to be known that the living entity within the body is not killed. The spirit soul is so small that it is impossible to kill him by any material weapon, as is evident from the previous verse. Nor is the living entity killable because of his spiritual constitution. What is killed or is supposed to be killed is the body only. This, however, does not at all encourage killing of the body. The Vedic injunction is Mahimshat Sarva Bhutani. Never commit violence to anyone. Nor does understanding that the living entity is not killed encourage animal slaughter. Killing the body of anyone without authority is abominable and is punishable by the law of the state as well as by the law of the Lord. Arjuna, however, is being engaged in killing for the principle of religion and not whimsically. Yeah, so that's a really good point because that's what I was thinking. There's like 5 factors of action, right? And the 10 senses, knowledge acquiring senses, and working senses. And so, what is it? The place, the time, the endeavor, right? Karma, and ultimately the super soul himself, right? For every end, for about how the working senses are superior to all matter, right? And superior to the working senses are the knowledge acquiring senses, and superior to the knowledge acquiring senses is the mind intelligence, and then he, the soul, the self, right? So it's a hankara, 8 material elements. So then there's the 5 factors of action, right? There's the place and time, right? And so the spiritual soul, he actually, what Prabhupada was saying here, what Krishna is saying in the verse, slays not nor is slain. So in Krishna book, so Vasudev explains to Kamsa that just as on a full moon night where the clouds are passing through the sky very rapidly, the moon may appear to be moving, but yet is stationary. So in the same way, the living entity actually does nothing. It's the material body and the material nature which is carrying out the actions. Yeah, it is. Basically, we have this sense of being the doer and being the proprietor. It's all by the work of my own brow, right? So we should feel very fortunate. We have been able to pick up Krishna consciousness, God consciousness, and engage in the proper activity. What Maharaj was saying at one time is that in this illusion, right, we have the opportunity of being able to engage in devotional service. Right. Otherwise, the whole mission is everything is just completely lost. The consciousness would be absorbed in material affairs with no knowledge of the Supreme Person of Godhead. But that's not the human form of life, or the goal of the human mission is lost in that way. So to understand that we're aham brahmasmi, that I'm not the material body. Aham brahmeti, right? Just identifying with the material body. Aham brahmasmi, is that I'm spirit soul, I'm not the material body. So we have the chance of utilizing our material body and the brain that Krishna gave us. The sannyasi's been mentioning this quite a lot, especially Bhakti Churu. Said Krishna gave you a brain. He gave you a brain for a reason. A brain to use it. You use it constructively. Use it in Krishna consciousness. Use your intelligence, right? And chanting Hare Krishna, and sharpens our intelligence, and one who studies Bhagavad Gita worships Krishna with his intelligence. This is stated in Bhagavad Gita himself by Krishna, like that. So any other questions, comments? I'll go on the next verse. Natayate mirte vakadachit nayam bhutva pavita vanapahyu ajo nitya savasho ayam purano nahanyate hanyamane sari. For the soul there is never birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, and primeval. He is neither born nor He is not slain when the body is slain. Purport. Qualitatively, the small atomic fragmental part of the Supreme Spirit is one with the Supreme. He undergoes no change like the body. Sometimes the soul is called the steady or kutastha. The body is subject to 6 kinds of transformations. It takes its birth in the womb of the mother's body, remains for some time, grows, produces some effects, gradually dwindles, and at last vanishes into oblivion. The soul, however, does not go through such changes. The soul is not born, but because he takes on a material body, the body takes its birth. The soul does not take birth there, and the soul does not die. Anything which has a birth also has death. And because the soul has no birth, he therefore has no past, present, or future. He is eternal, ever existing, and primeval. That is, there is no trace in history of his coming into being. Under the impression of the body, we seek the history of birth and so forth of the soul. The soul does not at any time become old as the body does. The so-called old man therefore feels himself to be in the same spirit as in his childhood or youth. The changes of the body do not affect the soul. The soul does not deteriorate like a tree, nor anything material. The soul has no byproduct either. The byproducts of the body, namely children, are also different individual souls, and owing to the body, they appear as children of a particular man. The body develops because of the soul's presence, but the soul is neither offshoots nor change. Therefore, the soul is free from the 6 changes of the body. In the Gita Upanishad also we find a similar passage which reads, Na jayate mirte vavayachin, nayam kutasun na virhapu kashit. Ajo nitya sasvato ayam purano, na hanyate hanyamane sarire. Gita Upanishad 1, 2, 18. The meaning and purport of this verse is the same as in the Bhagavad Gita. But here in this verse, there's one special word, vipachit, which means learned or with knowledge. The soul is full of knowledge, or full always with consciousness. Therefore, consciousness is the symptom of the soul. Even if one does not find the soul within the heart where he is situated, one can still understand the presence of the soul simply by the presence of consciousness. Sometimes we do not find the sun in the sky owing to clouds or for some other reason, but the light of the sun is always there, and we are convinced that it is there for daytime. As soon as there is a little light in the sky, early in the morning, we can understand that the sun is in the sky. Similarly, since there is some consciousness in all bodies, whether man or animal, we can understand the presence of the soul. This consciousness of the soul is, however, different from the consciousness of the Supreme, because the Supreme consciousness is all knowledge, past, present, and future. The consciousness of the individual soul is prone to be forgetful. When he is forgetful of his real nature, he obtains education and enlightenment from the superior lessons of Krishna. But Krishna is not like the forgetful soul. If so, Krishna's teachings of Bhagavad Gita would be useless. There are 2 kinds of souls, namely the minute particle soul, Anu Atma, and the super soul, the Vibhu Atma. This also confirmed in the Gita Upanishad in this way. Anyor aniyamato mahiyan atmasya janto nihita gurayam tam akraktu pashati vitasoko datu prasadan mahimaninam atmanaha. Gita Upanishad 1, chapter 2, text 20. Both the super soul, Paramatma, and the atomic soul, Jiva Atma, are situated on the same tree of the body within the same heart of the living being. And only one who has become free from all material desires as well as lamentations can, by the grace of the Supreme, understand the glories of the soul. Krishna is the fountainhead of the super soul also, as it will be disclosed in the following chapters. And Arjuna is the atomic soul, forgetful of his real nature. Therefore, he requires to be enlightened by Krishna or by his bona fide representative, the spiritual master. Yeah, so it's mentioned that the birds on the tree, the living entity, is eating the fruits of the tree, and the Paramatma is just simply witnessing. He's not engaging. He's not suffering or enjoying the karma of the living entities. He's neutral. So living entity, yeah, is eating the fruits of the tree, either bad karma or good karma, right? So fruits of the actions of activity is like more action, more activity, more suffering, more happiness. You know, whether worshiping demigods for good karma or engaging for bad karma. And so it's stated that the Vedas are giving the direction, Ato Brahma Gyanasa, come out of the darkness, come into the light. Now's the time to inquire what is Brahman now that we have assumed this human form of life. That all things that emanate exist, all things that exist emanate from the Supreme, Janmani Yata Yata. So these are the principles. So it's guiding the living entity of the bird on the tree of the body to look towards his friend, the super soul, who's been with him the whole time, just witnessing. As Krishna states, from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Krishna awards us our karma. He knows of all of our past activities or past lives and just exactly what our karma is, although we do not. Like that. So it's coming in contact with the super soul by devotional service. First, understanding what is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, how everything emanates from Krishna directly. And so the yogis, they meditate on Paramatma in the heart, holding the wheel of a chariot or Sudarshan chakra, conch shell, lotus flower, and club. And sitting on the whirl of a lotus within our heart. So these descriptions are given quite a few times in Srimad Bhagavatam. And they're focusing on their controlling their life breath and their senses. So we're doing the same thing, except that we're engaging specifically in devotional service to Krishna through the instructions of our spiritual master. So it's approaching Krishna Bhagavan directly, and he's the source of all the Paramatma. Actually, the Paramatma is one living supreme being. He's not many different Paramatmas. It's explained how there are many different water pots, and each of the water pots will reflect the image of the sun. So there's still only one sun, although the water pots may all be reflecting an image of the sun. That doesn't mean that the sun has become many. So that's the same characteristic of the super soul. The super soul is one, although he's within the hearts of all the living entities with all the atoms, but it's still the same one identity. So the devotees say, you know, oh, thank you. So I guess it's 8:20 now. Is there any questions or comments or anything else we can wrap it up with? All right. Sorry. Bhagavad Gita class, Ki Jai. Yeah, thank you very much for your comment.